Welcome back to the show, everybody. Got another good one for you. You know, aside from the SEC Ripple lawsuit and the fact that I feel we need to get a new test for digital assets in general, and I believe that it will look a lot like a Howey test, but for digital assets, I think it's always been about another big thing that we don't talk about enough, all about the XRP escrow. What happens to the XRP escrow? Let's hit that beautiful intro and get into this.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove and everything we are talking about here. And let's go ahead and get into this. So, there's been a lot of things just working on me, and I'm sure a lot of you out there as well. But where I'm at right now is I'm at a place where I'm not only concerned with following the SEC lawsuit and where this goes, but we're going to talk about some very important things here that I believe ultimately could have some real meaning and help us understand to maybe what to pay attention to as this continues to move forward and hopefully shake out. So this is the SEC lawsuit here. We know what it is. We know what it's all about, right? I'm not going to go back over it. But what I am going to do is just remind everybody about the tolling agreement right here highlighted. And let me just zoom in on it really quickly here so you can see it really well. This gives all the dates here that they have been in this tolling agreement, which really suspends the running of any applicable statute of limitations. If you notice, since last April 2019 through June 30th, 2019, July 7th, 2019 to September 7th, 2019, September 8th to 2019 to December 8th, 2019, December 9th, 2019 through June 8th, 2020, from June 9th, June 2020 to December 9th, 2020, from December 10th to 2020 to December 24th, 2020. Whew. And then it says here in the next point that Larson and the SEC entered into a tolling agreement, suspended the running of any applicable statute of limitations from September 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. 3 days left on that. Tolling agreement really basically means they're suspending the statute of limitations, as it said. However, it also means that there's a windows of opportunity where the parties involved can try to negotiate and settle without having to spend the exorbitant cost, time, and effort to go the full distance to an actual trial. Right? So with that being understood, what these look like, these dates look like to me, is negotiation windows and periods of time where they've come together to try to negotiate these things out. And it looks like we still have 3 days left underneath the 0.393 there, where it talks about Larson and the SEC are still in an agreement of suspending statute of limitations from September 20th to 1st, 2020 to September 31st, 2020 as well. I'm going to play you some evidence and some clips here that'll let you formulate your own opinion and your own ideas. Okay. And the reality here is I believe the question really as much as the clarity of whether it's a security or not, and maybe we end up getting some digital asset security designation that becomes a new definition that allows XRP to operate as a currency, but not challenge the sovereign currencies like the US dollar around the world. Just a thought. Okay. Now, this is the escrow. We know the escrow is a feature of the XRP ledger. It allows you to send conditional XRP payments. These conditional payments called escrows set aside XRP and deliver it later when the certain conditions are met. Conditions to successfully finish in escrow include time-based unlocks and crypto conditions. The XRP set aside in an escrow is locked up. No one can use or destroy the XRP until the escrow has been successfully finished. There you go. That's from Leonidas and XRP Arcade. Just setting the tone because here we go. And then I'm going to run through this and we're getting into some really serious clips here. So former Treasury Michael S. Barr left the Treasury to go to work to Ripple. Susan Friedman did the same thing. Used to work at the Treasury, left to go to Ripple. Craig Phillips did the same thing. Used to work at the Treasury, drafted the Taxonomy Act, also put together the Executive Order 13772 about modernizing the government and what have you. And he left and went to work at Ripple as well. Ben Lawsky, who wrote the bit license for New York, ended up leaving and going to work for Ripple as well. So all of this shows huge government interest in this company, whether they left as individuals or not. They went there for their expertise from the Treasury and from overseeing monetary policy. That's how I see it. Okay. And now here we have FDIC adds 5 to its Systemic Revolution Advisory Committee. Shout out to DAI for this one. He highlighted this one for me. July 23rd, 2020. It shows here that Sandy O'Connor, who is now at Ripple, formerly JP Morgan, and worked for 3 decades there in the banking regulatory agency, worked alongside of many advisory regulatory committees such as the G20 and others. Even the FDIC, comprised of 16 total members. Systemic Resolution Advisory Committee provides guidance to the FDIC on systemically important financial institutions. The committee was created as a part of the Dodd-Frank Act. I believe that the XRP ledger, XRP, the ILP, all of these things could be made a case, certainly the XRP ledger because it moves value, right? As I certainly see the XRP ledger as something that could be deemed as something to be systemically important through the Dodd-Frank Act, through the Treasury, and more specifically through FSOC, the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which is a regulatory agency connected to the Treasury. When I look here, this is actually from the Treasury, where it breaks down the FSOC and the Dodd-Frank Act, and it says here to designate a financial market utility as systemically important. The Council determines that the failure of a disruption of the functioning of a FMU, financial market utility, could create or increase the risk of significant liquidity or credit problems spreading among the financial institution or markets, and thereby threaten the stability of the U.S. financial system. Designated FMUs will become subject to heightened prudential and supervisory provisions of Title VIII, which promote robust management, risk management, and safety and soundness, including conducting their operations in compliance with applicable risk management standards, providing advance notice and review of changes to their rules, procedures, operations that could materially affect the nature of the level of their risk, and being subject to relevant examination and enforcement provision. I want to go back to a comment in here to really highlight what I'm talking about here, is that it says here, the FMU could create or increase significant liquidity or credit problems spread among the financial institutional markets, threaten the U.S. financial system, and how it could be designated as a financial market utility to become subject to heightened prudential and supervisory provisions. Now, I believe if you look down here as a list, you see things like clearing houses, CLS Bank International, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. All of these things are deemed systemically important. Now, we've heard Brad Garlinghouse say that central banks, they know of central banks are looking to issue CBDCs off of the XRP Ledger open source technology, meaning they're looking to build their own private networks on top of that technology to issue their own CBDC. I believe if something is going to be that important by such a major players of the world, talking about central banks here, government issued fiat in digital form, or even in wholesale form, as a digital dollar, this is an incredibly important move in finance and in payments and in transactions and settlement. And this, to me, would need to be held to a systemically important designation. That's how I see that. And I see this as part of the path as well as the lawsuit issue with the SEC. Now, the other part of this is about pre-allocation. And I wanted to touch on this because I believe I don't even have to believe it, there was an accelerator program of $300 million worth of XRP that was pre-allocated to accelerate and incentivize many different areas of industry around the world, not just banking, but remittances, payment providers, small, medium enterprises, things of that nature. And they did that successfully. And then that created a situation where they could use seigniorage to incentivize these market makers in these different areas of industry to begin using the asset. And whatever they may have suffered or incurred as a cost would have been reimbursed by Ripple to cover the spread. A la an example, if I'm a remittance company and I'm using using it in a corridor that I normally would use, let's say US dollar for liquidity, and it costs me a little more in the beginning of using it than it would the US dollar, then Ripple would cover the spread of that in order to make that change. Right? So that's what that is. So now I'm going to play you 3 different clips here about the idea of pre-allocation and the fact that it's not really an idea. They do it. Bob Way's going to tell you they do it, and Brad Garlinghouse is going to confirm that they have pre-contractual agreements that they have lockup periods for. And the reason they have that is because, well, there's many reasons, honestly. One, they don't want whoever they're working with to turn around and just dump on the market and be a bad actor, because that would be very, very hurtful, to Ripple, the business, and XRP as far as success goes, right? The other reason to that is there's no clarity. We don't have clarity, but I can see the benefit of it 4 years ago. So maybe as an entity, I say, hey, I could bring X amount of utility to the market. And in fact, Brad Garlinghouse is going to confirm that part. And if I could bring a certain level of utility, that may be able to figure out a formula of how much XRP may work best for me going forward into the future. And maybe until we get to clarity, because I might be a bank, I do a lockup period and pre-contractually have allocated to me a certain amount. It could be in a separate holding company. They could even hold it on their end in escrow in a contract. And when I live up to my end of it and they live up to their end of it and everybody builds a bridge across to one another, meet in the middle, and we get the clarity we need, I can have that bag that I bought. And I just feel like this is a very, very interesting moment, because I feel like the designation and the clarity we're looking for isn't just so banks and everyone around the world can use it. But I believe once we get that designation, the next thing to follow after that is, okay, great. So now we have the clarity we need and everybody can use it. It's going to drive the price to the moon because XRP actually can do what it says it can do. And we all have seen tests of that, live tests of that with MoneyGram. So there's no question about the fact what XRP can do. It's proven. Now we just need the world to use it. We get the clarity we need, the world starts using it. Once the world starts using it, it's going to drive the price to the moon. When the price starts going to the moon, you have to ask yourself a very serious question. Will Ripple be allowed to remain as the steward of the monthly release of the escrow? I think the answer is no. That's how I see it. And I also see it as that if you turn around and look at where we are today, maybe that's why they're in the middle of a case, and maybe that's why they've been negotiating for over a year now and trying to resolve this issue, which is still in question, and be able to figure this out properly, because at the end of the day, if they do get hit with unregistered security, who knows what that fine may be. The fine may be having to cough up the remainder of the escrow that is not contractually obligated and pre-allocated to other entities they've done business with so far over the last several years. It remains to be seen, but I'm going to play this for you. This first question is really not the question of pre-allocation, generally speaking. It's actually referencing what was the CARES Act, which some people are hanging on to pretty tightly, but it doesn't reference that. David Schwartz does say in here that he thinks theories and conspiracy theories out here are nothing more than hopium to him, but albeit what it may, let's just play this full disclosure here. You make your mind up.
Here's some questions. All right. Are current escrow XRP held for central banks to utilize in the current financial crisis as per the new inclusion to the CARES Act?
Now, we're not talking about the CARES Act. And let me tell you what else we're not talking about. We're not talking about banks specifically holding the XRP. What we're talking about at this point, knowing what we know today, is what Brad Garlinghouse has told us. We do know that central banks are looking to issue CBDCs off of the XRP open source ledger technology. He said that, not me, not somebody else. Brad Garlinghouse said that. And I'm going to play some other stuff that he said too. And if you think about that, then the idea of them holding XRP, whether it be in a separate holding company or even an escrow in a locked up situation, it doesn't affect them, and it's not collusion to any extent either, because the reality is they're looking at launching their own money off of the network, which means they would collateralize the reserves of their own digital dollar. And that intrinsic value of choosing the ledger to do that will drive the price through the roof. And it will do the same thing with remittance companies choosing to use it, and payment providers and SMEs, and the list goes on in the gaming industry and so forth. But listen to this right here.
You know, there's a lot of conspiracy theories and speculation on Twitter that people just sort of make things up out of whole cloth. The word hopium is sometimes used to describe this idea that, like, you see, people will see Ripple, or they'll see XRP, or they'll see some other cryptocurrency and everything going on in the news. There are certainly big things going on that we have not, that we don't always announce, but those conspiracy theories don't have any grounding.
There we go. So, we're not seeing direct question about the CARES Act, which is nothing I've ever subscribed to, is saying that there's nothing there, right? So that's how I see that there. Now let's listen to this, because this is a CEO. This is Brad Garlinghouse, and he's asked, and thanks to Chad Alexander for this video. I've shown it before, but I'm going to show it again. And this is Julia Chatterley flat out asking him if they have lockups, which is really pre-allocation. What I'm talking about is contractually pre-allocating an amount of XRP to a certain entity based on things that they need to do to fulfill the contract from their end, and Ripple needs to do to fulfill the contract from their end. This, to me, is how you really begin to line up who's going to incentivize the network and how you get them to bring their utility to this network. Let's play this right quick, right from here.
It's quite funny. One of the big questions that I was asked when I was talking to people about XRP, they said, what price do you sell XRP to the financial institutions that you're dealing with here? Do you give them a discount, and is there a lockup? Can you answer those questions? Because this kept coming up.
Yeah, sure. So, let's use MoneyGram as the example. When MoneyGram is moving money from US dollar to Mexican peso, they're buying at market. They're not, there's no special sweetheart deal there. There are times when we work with institutional investors who might say, hey, we want to buy $10 million of XRP, and we would have lockups that would prevent them from dumping. We don't want some other party buying a whole lot of XRP and dumping it on the market. And so we would hypothetically have restrictions about what they could sell and what, how often. And usually those are based upon volume in the market.
Based upon volume in the market, just like I said, based upon the level of utility that you could bring based on the level of volume you have in the market right now. Keep listening.
Yeah, so you might give them it slightly cheaper, but you say to them, hey, you're not allowed to sell it for 6 months, let's say, or a year.
Yeah, correct. That's basically correct.
There you go. Brad Garlinghouse just told you that they absolutely do pre-contractual agreement lockups. That is my definition of pre-allocation. All right, so there it is. If anyone has a problem with that, they should tag Brad Garlinghouse, not me, because the reality is that is how you get this actually going. That is how you get players into this situation. Now let's listen to some more shots right here. And I want to actually jump, just for the sake of time. Let me go to 120. It's supposed to be 120.20, but let me try to get it right where it needs to be. Oh, you know what? I'm going to let it play from here. But listen to this, because this is another version, Bob Way, that an interview I did last April, around the same time as that video, I believe, and from Brad Garlinghouse. And this is escrow confirmation and talking about a synchronizing primitive because of the escrow being established. Listen to this.
XRP holders there.
Absolutely.
Like Ripple the company.
Absolutely. So I think this is a beautiful segue for us to move into the next point, which is understanding the 55 billion escrow.
For the sake of time, I put it on a 1.5 times fast, just so you guys can hear it. I think it's still very clear, even though it's a little funnier sounding.
So, I just did a recent interview, a really great interview with SPQR Media, who are fantastic, with Lee on that show. It's a team of them over there, and they do some really nice work. And he was remarking about the fact that escrow, and you and I touched on this a little bit yesterday, so it's for the audience, obviously, to bring them up to where we've been, that the escrow can be pre-allocated in contracts. So an entity could go out and say, look, I want 1 million XRP next March, or what have you. And I think that's an important thing to understand through all of this, because, as we see, as you really, obviously, you have brought an enormous amount of clarity. I told you yesterday when we spoke, I absolutely got lights coming on in my warehouse. I mean, it's unbelievable. But, I think it's important to understand that is a key part of what they're doing. So if If you understand the quarterly report, Crypto Eddie, who's in Japan, has an XRP channel. She's fantastic. She shouted us out for our interview today, and she also broke down the Q1 report and said it was like at the rate that they sold currently, it's another 200 and some odd months, at that pace before it would go away. And I think that was accurate of her to say. But I also think it's important to remember about escrow that there could be portions along the way here that are allocated for entities like banks who understand we're not going to be like the record company. Put us on until we're going to get our blockchain together and all our this together and get their stuff in-house together. But it's waiting for them at a certain point as well. So is that a little too optimistic, or is that fair to say?
So let me expand on that a little bit, but that's generally fair to say. And
it's generally fair to say. And he's going on to talk about this, and we're going to play this. I'm going to let you hear it. But the reality here is Brad Garlinghouse confirmed that, just with Julia Chatterley, they can lock it up 6 months or a year. You can't touch it. Here it is. And Julia Chatterley actually even snuck in there that they may do it at a discounted price or a discounted rate, which, Brad Garlinghouse earlier in that interview actually said, no, the price is the price. And you do have to think about tax implications. And David Schwartz has also said that, the price of XRP is the price of XRP because of tax implications and otherwise. There's one price for the asset. And listen, these questions from Brad Garlinghouse, from Julia Chatterley, and our discussion here with Bob Way has nothing to do with the CARES Act. Nothing to do with the CARES Act, as David Schwartz answered, right? So there's that too. So, and actually, I also have a Twitter post, oddly enough, and I think I've got the actual screenshot. There was an exchange just as recently too, as like a few days ago, December 20th at like 12:19 a.m. in the morning. And it said, the biggest problem, talking about escrow in like a thread, David Schwartz was saying and remarking, the biggest problem was that we didn't want to hold XRP forever, but giving it away became impossible. It was a bizarre challenge. Lockups don't work too well either. And this was a part of a multi-thread thing that was going on back and forth about the idea of even having an XRP escrow account for the remainder of the XRP, which I think was a good idea that they did that. And I also think by escrow, by definition, means third party. And I think that third party is probably PolySign, although I've never heard anybody admit it. So before I play the rest of this to you, he actually acknowledged on December 28th at 12:18 a.m. this morning that, the biggest problem was that we didn't want to hold XRP forever, but giving it away became impossible. But they were giving it away at some point, right? Because they had the accelerator program. I feel like he's referencing what I told you about earlier, is that $300 million XRP accelerator program in the early days where they used to incentivize the different market makers and people that had utility that could bring to the network to begin to use it, test it out, and those things. So let me play the rest of this right here. But I just think it's important that we focus on escrow, because once we get the clarity, whether it's a new digital security asset definition or whether it's a utility currency, whatever, let's just understand that the next question after that is who's going to become the steward of the XRP escrow? Because I don't believe that it will be allowed to be Ripple.
one of the amazing things about these escrow features. So let me give you just a little bit of background. I don't know how much time we have here.
Bob, I'm open. I've cleared the afternoon. So is whenever, obviously whenever you're ready, we can do a wrap. It's up to you.
Okay. So escrow was actually not created for what everybody sees it being used for now, the most prominent use case, which is Ripple's escrow of its 50 billion plus XRP. It was actually created as a synchronizing primitive for ILP transactions.
A synchronizing primitive for ILP transactions. There you go.
And so there's two types of an escrow transaction says, I'm the person who used to have this XRP. Here's where the XRP is going to go, the person it's going to go to next.
Right.
And it then has a condition on it. It says, right now, I have a condition. If this condition is true, the person receiving the signs this particular contract.
Right.
Then deliver this to that person. Right.
Right.
It also has a timeout on it, which says that person has to deliver this condition to receive the XRP before a certain time.
Okay.
And if they don't do that, the XRP goes back to me. Right.
Got it. Yep.
But before that timeout, I can't reclaim the XRP. I can't renege and take it all back.
Right.
That's what makes it an escrow. And so all of that's visible on the ledger. It's very transparent. So of the original 55 billion XRP that the company locked up, it's staggered to come due according to the original rules that I remember, right? If I'm missing any details, forgive me. But what they said was, okay, there's 55 billion. We would like to have access to about $1 billion a month just in case.
Sure.
And so they locked it up in 55-ish escrows, right, of 1 billion each. And then they staggered the expiration dates of those so that they would come due one per month for over 4.5 years or whatever 55 months is, right? Roughly somewhere in that. And then what happens is, so one of those escrows was going to come due 1 month out, the next one 2 months out, the next one 3 months out. They're all staggered like that. So if they didn't, once the escrow becomes available, they can sell it or use some of it. And then anything they don't use, they lock up in a new escrow. That's 55 months out, basically, right? And it just keeps rotating like that. And so everybody can track when this is available for sale and when it goes. So all of those Ripple escrows have no condition on it. There's nothing the company can do to renege and say, we're going to take all of this and dump it.
Right. Which is awesome to know. Yeah.
And so let me take this back to paranoia, right?
Yeah.
So right from the beginning, from 2013, the company has always said, we're never going to do that. How is it possibly in our best interest to dump all of this and crush the price, right? And everybody went, no, we're paranoid. We don't believe you. And so once they put that into escrow, everybody went like, oh, well, we don't have to trust you. We trust the ledger, this mathematical thing that you completely created, right? But we trust that, right?
That we trust.
The imaginary man in the sky.
That's right. That's funny.
Which is awesome. That's what cryptocurrencies are for. But I'm like, it's not like anything changed in what the company has ever said. It just, the transparency changes everything, right? Everybody can watch. There's no backroom dealings. So what you were suggesting is on the market report, they say we sold this much here. When people hear that, they go, oh my God, somebody's going to crash the market. They're getting special prices and they're going to dump and they're going to force the price down. That's never in Ripple, the company's best interest, right? And, they, to my knowledge, I can't speak for everything the company's doing, but you can't sell it cheaper. Like that's a taxable event for everybody. It's a general pain in the ass.
David Schwartz, to your point, has came out and made that very clear too. He said the price of XRP is the price of XRP. So the only advantage really is being able to get large sums of it for a flat rate, whereas if you bought it on exchange, you have to buy out the buy and sell walls, right?
Now the way I understand it from reading things David said and the company's published is there's strings attached to that, right? And that's what you're referring to.
Yes.
So there might be a lockup period like you're referring to that says, okay, we're selling you this now and it's absolutely yours and we're reporting that on the ledger, but it's escrowed unconditionally for a year or 2 years. And you will be able to look at the ledger and see those transactions. And you'll see an address. If there's an address that says it came from Ripple and it's going to somebody else who's not Ripple for delivery in a year or something out of a certain amount, maybe that was one of those deals. So you're seeing half of the business transaction. You're seeing the money being allocated and it's going to be delivered in the future to somebody. But you don't know the other terms of that. Right?
Sure.
That's private. It would be awesome if everybody could see all the terms of that.
Well, and I understand it. Contracts are contracts. You know what I mean? They're both between the two people they belong to be between. Yeah.
So there you have it. I mean, that to me lays down exactly what we're looking at and what's been going on this whole time, which is why this comes down to the United States clarity, because the rest of the world has already got it. Brad Garlinghouse told all of us that 95% of their customer base is outside of the United States, and 95% of their customer base already sees XRP and deals with XRP as a currency. This gets more interesting by the day, ladies and gentlemen. The reason again I bring up this is because should we see actions taken against Ripple through this, will those actions be the actions that separate Ripple, the blockchain infrastructure company, from the escrow legally, to the point that the escrow releases end up going to somewhere like the United States Treasury? Or maybe the Ripple ends up becoming a central bank, a new bank, like a central bank off of the Treasury. I don't see any of these things as things that, that we can just simply dismiss. There's a lot of ways that this could break. And I think the best thing to do is for all of us to keep a very, very open mind about all of this, because I certainly don't have all the answers, but I certainly know that I'm giving you what other people are telling us. For those of you who don't know, Bob Way is an early employee at Ripple, and he helped develop a lot of the strategy about where they're going and what they're doing today and what's been implemented over the last several years. And he also wrote and helped develop many very important patents for Ripple and XRP. So this is where I'm at on this day. Let's keep a close eye on what's going on. I just think that any more trading halt news from Coinbase or Uphold, which we haven't had yet, but if we get that, it would not surprise me at all. because it would just tell me the bigger the exchange says that they're going to stop trading and stop maybe even go as far as delist an asset, like an Uphold or a Coinbase would not surprise me. And in fact, it would kind of get me excited because it makes me feel like we might even be even closer to getting the resolution we need. And I hope that we get the resolution in a very, very expedited way, because I think it's important for the entire crypto space and not just XRP. So there we are on this day. I just wanted to lay out that information for any of you that haven't seen it or haven't seen it in this manner, and just put forth where we need to be. Look, one, we're going to get the clarity. We know that. We're on the path. We're on the path now, and this path ends with finding out exactly where we're going to be. And that's amazing and exciting to me. And as we go there, I start to have to ask myself, once that clarity comes, who's going to remain as the steward of the XRP escrow? That's going to do it for me. Hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Make sure you share with somebody you know, and hit the notification bell. Check out all the links in the description box and the comment section. 88% special right now. Pure VPN. Help hide and protect your anonymity online. It is one of the many layers of protection I use online. I will catch all of you on the next one.